You're still with us on our special coverage of Wing Commander Abhinandan's return to India. Now, Shireen Bhan also spoke with former defense personnel to delve into the mindset of the Wing Commander when he was captured by the Pakistan Army. Let's hear out what they had to say.
Let me bring the three defense personnel that I have on the program into this conversation. And let me first go across to Air Chief Marshal Krishnaswamy, sir. Air Chief Marshal Tipnis called me the Air Force brat, and I'm very proud to be one. In terms of next steps, and again for the benefit of our viewers, because so much of this has been videos that people have seen on social media commenting on the courage that Wing Commander Abhinandan has shown, defense under fire, defiance under fire, the way that he undertook the escape and evasion strategy on ejection. What do you believe trains an Indian Air Force pilot to be able to be this courage under fire that we saw being exemplified by Wing Commander Abhinandan?
It's the motivation. Just simple, underline, you don't have to be exceptional, but you have to be motivated enough to, improve yourself, to get into it's somewhat it's competing as well. So you have to be on your toes all the time. You must get into aeroplane. You must fly as much as you can and you want to, and you want to excel. You want to get better scores, better marks, better and everything as possible. And you have to sustain. That requires a fair amount of so-called energy, focus, concentration, etc., that you're very familiar with. So he's proved himself to be actually very remarkable in all. He proved. At the end of it, what is our objective as a fighter pilot? He has really excelled. He's the first MiG-21 pilot to bring down an F-16. And I quite well understand how difficult it is, and it's not a fluke, and we will get to know more about the combat later. That's not important right now, and he's proved himself to be remarkable. That's what our our bread and butter is. And having said that, and that was and plus he's the flight commander of the squadron, so he has to set an example. That's always there, obviously, in back of his mind, that whatever he does, and whatever the squadron stands for, the squadron's so-called hierarchy stops at flight commander of the sea at the most, and so he's everything. So all the youngsters whom he's training, they are looking up to him. So and all his men, the hundreds of men who kind of look after his plane and others. And then the other squadrons, the whole, that what a station is like. So he has to he has to prove himself, or what do you call it? All the others, all are hearing and watching, not so much what he says, but how he is, and what message that he kind of conveys. So he has to be exemplary, so-called, as an example. Whether he is tackling what he call the villages there, or whether he is burning up the papers, or how he handles himself, how he speaks, he's so aware of it, and it's remarkable. And to sustain that energy, it is something extraordinary. So I put him as that.
Well, Air Marshal Tyagi is here with me in the studio. I would imagine that there's a big Bada Khana being planned on his return, Air Marshal Tyagi. But, the point that I want to raise today, and I think this is something that we've been talking about over the last 24 hours or so, the use of air power. And many of the Air Force personnel who've been on my shows say that perhaps one of the larger messages from what has happened in this operation is that the notion that air power was automatically escalatory is no longer the case. So this is now an instrument that can be exercised.
Very true. But first of all, let me talk about Bada Khana. Bada Khana is not only in his honor. I think whole country is celebrating.
Absolutely.
And, there are Bada Khanas at every place. And I saw some visuals where people are standing to greet him. And I'm sure when they return home, there will be Bada Khana.
There will be Bada Khanas all across India. But for the benefit of our viewers who might not be familiar with what a Bada Khana is, Marshal Tyagi, you want to fill them in with that?
No, I think you need to do it because I have attended so many of these. But it is generally a big meal.
It is a big meal, and it is a get together across ranks and across hierarchies. That is really the spirit of the Indian Armed Forces, not just the Indian Air Force, but the Indian Armed Forces. And we'll get General Malik to comment on that in just a second. But the larger point that you were making, sir.
Yes, so now coming to the bogey of escalation, and there were two issues which prevented. First of all, there has to be a political will to send the Air Force across. And the two issues which always play on one's mind, one is escalation, and the second one was the nuclear bogey. Now, in this strike, what has happened, that the escalatory nature, you see, the escalatory nature of war is there when you do not declare your intent clearly.
Right.
Now, when you have a strike, and which is with a limited, which is set objective, and you don't deviate from that, also under provocation, then that means you can control escalation. And escalation control is always with the stronger party.
Right.
So in this case, what has been demonstrated, that we'll strike what we want to strike and with a purpose, and do nothing more than that unless you provoke us.
Yeah.
So I think this myth has been demolished forever.
And that's all we have on the show this evening. Many thanks for watching, but do stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. Lots more news and updates through the day.